Hey everybody, welcome to episode 131. We get pretty deep in this one, talking a little bit about complacency and also what we can do to change our minds and frame our minds in different ways to have better positive outcomes, as well as push ourselves through whole different limits that we ever thought was possible. I, for one, have been getting a little complacent lately at Orange Theramey. Talk a little bit about how I was able to overcome that, get a little bit further, push myself further, and also have just an amazing workout and feel accomplished for myself, and getting into how we both all work together to make this world a better place. So tune into this episode's podcast and hopefully you enjoy it. We'll catch you again here next week.
You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording of myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 131. It is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, dude.
Happy Valentine's Day, man.
Harper is hilarious. She's been calling it New Balance Day. So she woke up this morning, she's like, Happy New Balance Day, and she will not accept the fact that that's not what it's called. So it's just Happy New Balance Day. What's going on, dude? What's the update?
What's that?
What's the update?
Well, I of course, late last night I was going to, I forgot that it was Valentine's Day today because I was, busy with everything. And I knew I had to get it done, but it's like one of those things where it's like 8:30 at night. And I'm like, oh man, I still need to go get a card and some stuff. So I was like, hey, honey, I need to go get blueberries. And she's like,
you should have just said, I have to go to GNC.
Like, you're going to get my Valentine's Day card right now. I know exactly what you're doing. I'm like, you're 100% right. But I did find, so it's funny because I get to Drug Mart and it's like right by our house or whatever. And there's like 30 other dudes right there, like right at the cards doing the exact same thing. So I had to like fight for a spot to get to the cards. And so like, there's like, for your husbands, which is like a tiny section. And then there's like for your wife, which is like a huge section. And like, I'm like trying to like muzzle through all these people to get to the cards. And like half the cards are already gone. But I found two perfect cards. One of them was a funny one. And one of them was like a sentimental, nice one. And, Erin likes the scratch off, like instant, lottery ticket things. So I got her some of those, and she had already picked up chocolates for herself.
Nice.
And I give her for a gift, so it's perfect. It all worked out just great. See?
I did. Absolutely. I nailed it once again.
Another successful Valentine's Day. How about you, man?
Things are good here. I got, actually just went, and Harper again, she'll not accept the fact that it's a celebration and there's not a balloon. So I went and got her the biggest heart-shaped balloon that I could. And I got her, so I don't know if you remember, but she likes the Jellycat, like soft toys, but like the fruit and vegetable ones, like the food ones.
Yeah.
And they brought out a new rent, and they brought out, so I got her like a pink heart one for Valentine's Day, but they brought out oats, like a little bowl of oats. So I got her, because we know the story about the oats. So yeah, things are good. Valentine's Day sorted. I just put a steak in the oven, so I'm going to reverse sear it because it's like this thick.
Nice.
And I'm going to have that after this. So yeah, things are good.
I just found out that so like the biggest challenge I always have is like the podcast we always do at noon, and so it's like right when I'm about to eat, and I always forget that the podcast is at noon. So what happens is like I usually
always
have like
forget. 131 episodes in, forget about it every week.
I'm still struggling on when I need to order food, but like so like from like 12 to 1 we have the podcast, but usually like my 1 to 2, 2 to 3 are all booked up with meetings. Usually my 11 to 12 is like when I have time to catch up, but I forget to order food because it's like I'm not quite there yet. So like right when it hits like 11:40, I'm like, oh, I need to eat. Well, I just figured out that Subway is like right down the street. I can Uber Eats it. And it's like 10 minutes
nice
by the time I put the order into when it's here. So I had half my 6-inch turkey on wheat.
Do you know what we could do? We could change it to 11 a.m. your time, if that makes your life easier.
That makes it even worse. You can't change it now. Like I finally just figured out this Subway hack. Like it's all good now. Like we're good now. Like, but it's taking this long.
Why didn't you tell me this 130 episodes ago? We could have had it sorted.
Finally got it.
Good. Glad to hear it. And you're going to submit your check-in today?
I am submitting my check-in today, so I apologize. I've been slacking on that, but we did discuss a lot of things today on Signal, but we'll get into that today. But no, everything else is good. I was actually at Orange Theory today. It was a capture the flag where you have a partner. My partner was Erin, my wife, and we did an awesome tag team where it's like a combination of like sprinting on the treads, doing a circuit in the gym, and then you go and do rowing. And the whole goal is to get like a certain amount of certain amount of distance and rowing. So you get like the flags once you complete like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 and everything else. So it was a lot of fun. We had a good time today. And it's funny because like Aaron got stuck. So that like at the very end, you have like, let's just say 4 minutes left, right? Whoever's on that rower gets stuck on that rower, and then the other person has to cheer that person on. So Aaron got stuck on the last 4 minutes where I'm like, go, 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 trying to get this. And she sent me a message. She's like, literally, I'm on my bed right now and I'm not getting up. Like my arms, my legs, everything's not working right now.
I will say this though, like an extended period of time in a rower really takes its toll on your body. Like I remember we used to do I think it was like 1,000 meters or 2,000 meters in the gym, like, and like literally just had to lie down beside the rower for like 15 minutes after. Like not good
I will tell you,
at all.
Listen, I love, I'm rephrasing, I don't love running, but I'm good at running. Like I can run and sprint, like, you know, because like you had to do like a 0.2 mile, 0.15 mile, 0.1 mile. Okay. That was kind of like the breakdown of the circuit. And when I get on there, I'm like 12 miles an hour, fast as I can go for 0.2 miles, easy peasy, right? I could do those all day long and have fun with it, right? When I get on the rower, I'm like, I hate this. I hate this so much. Like I hate the rowing so much. Like, and I know it's a full body workout that's fantastic for you. Like, believe me, it's a great machine. It's just I hate it. Like I just don't want to ever do it again. Like, you know, so every day it's like a large row. Like when they have the 3,000 meter benchmark row, I'm like,
no,
I'm feeling
that day. Yeah.
I'm not going.
Yeah, I've got a cough coming on. I don't want to give it to everybody else.
Yeah, dude.
But good. So training's good,
and you know, everything's been going really good. And you know, listen, life is just really good right now. Businesses have been doing really well. You know, we just had a lot of stuff kind of happen all at the same time, all good stuff, and you know, just kind of trying to manage it. You know, this crazy thing we call life. But you know, we'll get into that a little bit today in discussions.
We will indeed. I will say, first of all, before I forget, this is a message for everyone listening. We need your help. So I have decided that we're going to do a sub podcast once a week. Maybe Dave will come, maybe he won't, but I'm basically going to host a podcast with each of my clients on a weekly basis. So one client per week, essentially. I'm going to start this when we get back from Phoenix, and I want you guys to submit what you want to know from them. Once I have the questions together, I'm going to ask everybody the same question. So every week I'll ask each individual client the same set of questions, and we'll put that out, I've just decided, on a Thursday. So I meant to say that last week and it didn't, but here we are, it's been said. Aside from that, I will say I feel fucking awesome at the minute. Like training, finding my time that I like to train, the amount of time that it takes me to train, the sessions, the amount of food, how I feel whenever I'm training, as consistent as I have been, I feel fucking awesome, genuinely. And it's been a long time since I felt like this. And it sort of, I mean, I was in the gym today and I was literally thinking, I was like, there is literally a list of 1,000 other things that I need to do. And today's meant to be a rest day, but I'm traveling all day Friday. So I was like, I'll get ahead. And I feel fucking awesome.
That's awesome. I have been going through the exact opposite where I feel like total shit. However, I think I've solved all those issues because I feel great today. So today's like the first day I feel great. So
good. I'm glad that you feel good today. I'm not glad that you felt like shit, but I have felt awesome. I feel really good. And I think my point in saying that is to just show up and put the work in and be consistent with it, because for the longest time, and as I've sort of said in the previous podcast, I probably wasn't as consistent. I probably didn't put as much effort in as I could have last year as a whole. And just that little bit of change in terms of shorter workouts and going more often has definitely helped. And even as I said to you earlier on, like I'm happy with where my body composition's at. Like I'm not I don't want to push like super far in the deficit, don't want to push super far in the surplus. If I could just maintain this like level of body fat and push either way in terms of stronger or whatever we decide to do, I think I'd be happy with that on the whole. Now, I had a call with Jill earlier on. She was like, yeah, but something will happen in 2 weeks and you completely change your mind. I'm like, you're absolutely right. But for now, just let me be happy in the moment. Right, happy in the moment. Yeah.
I'm always staying in I want to be in a forever bulk. But you know, after I go on vacation here in a little bit, I'll be back to stacking on some weight again, hopefully. But I'll tell you the same thing. Like, you know, for some reason, you know, for like the past like 3 weeks, I've just been dragging ass, just tired every day. Like, you know, and it's like nothing major has changed. I mean, I was having some issues with sleep, but that's all fixed. You know, sleep has been great. Like last night I went to bed at like 10:45 and I like literally put my head down, laid down, and I was out. I don't remember another thing. Like it was one of the fastest times I think I've ever, you know, fallen asleep. But, you know, it was one of those things where I just, you know, would wake up and I'd be good for a workout. but then like afterwards, I would just drag ass the rest of the day, where like I'd have to take like a nap in the afternoon and like a nap in the evening, and I was just like tired as hell. And I think I finally started to figure out what it is, and it comes down to my eating habits, right? And what I'm eating, when I'm eating, and how I'm eating things. And that has a big difference on my energy production. So today is one of the first days where I think I've really swapped things out, and my energy levels are amazing right now. I feel great. And right now I'd be, dragging ass. I'd be dragging ass, especially for the podcast. And so, it's those tweaks that we have to do in our lives, even if like you're doing the same thing over and over again, it may not work a year from now or 2 years from now or 3 years from now. You got to kind of look at that and reassess and change, what you're doing. And, I think my biggest thing was I was just packing too much stuff in my morning meals where, like I would put in, the momentum shake, which is 25 grams of protein, but it's also like a whole bunch of other stuff like NAD and everything else. And then I'm putting 2 scoops of protein in there, which is 50 grams of protein. So 75 grams of protein. Plus I'm putting creatine in there. I'm putting sometimes athletic greens in there, so I have all this stuff that's going into there. So my stomach is like, bleh. And then all of a sudden I'm eating a whole thing of, a cup of protein oatmeal, with blueberries. And then I'm just like dragging ass, and I'm just sluggish and tired because my body's really just trying to digest all that food that I just popped into it. Right. And then on top of it, I'm taking my vitamins at the same time, which is heavy on the nutrient side and everything else.
72 tablets.
Like literally 70 pills, so like all that stuff at the same time, it was just too much in the mornings. And what I found is that if I, space it out, I eat like right after a post-workout meal, I eat a little bit of protein, but more carbohydrates. And then I
what type of carbohydrates? Come on, you can tell everybody I was right.
Well, so I watched Sam Sulek the other day, and he was right on this. Sam Sulek is all about the Rice Krispies afterwards, or the Cocoa Pebbles, sorry. Right afterwards, I think you call it Cocoa Puffs, but
they are Cocoa Pops over here. And number one, they're superior, and number two, I was eating them in post-workout before Sam Sulek had ever even set foot in the gym.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, So, but I had Cocoa Pebbles right after my workout, which is essentially just rice and some obviously sugar, but you throw in some Fairlife milk in there, you get a high amount of protein in that as well, and that was a great kickstart to kind of replenish my glycogen stores, and then from there, really easily digestible food to give me some energy, and then about an hour later, I had my protein shake, and then I feel great, and then by noon I was, or 11:45, I was ready to eat my sandwich. So you're just spacing out that stuff just a little bit more. I think I'm gonna do my vitamins more so in midday than in the morning, because I'm just again stacking too much stuff during that period of time, and then from there kind of move forward. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm definitely tweaking things and how I do things, and really came down to food, which is usually probably it's either going to be sleep, food, or you're deficient in some sort of area. It could be hormonal too. There's a lot of things obviously it could be, but a lot of times go to the easiest source first to try to figure out what's actually happening to get you to that point to where you can kind of optimize your health and optimize your energy, which is the most important. I mean, nothing was working. Caffeine wasn't working. I was just tired all the time, dragging ass. And that's, I think the cool part is I think I finally licked it.
Well, I'll challenge you a little bit in this, because I think it's something that's not often spoken about, and just because I know everything, well, I know the majority of what has been going on. I don't often think we talk enough about mental tiredness. Like, we know when we're physically tired because our body's just like, fuck this. But whenever you have a high mental strain, you have as much going on and as much travel and as many decisions to make and all the business shit going on, and just like trying to do day-to-day Dave stuff, it's a lot of shit going on. So it's like the mental tiredness, you're probably not, because it's quote unquote normal to you and you just go through it. And the fact that you don't actually have an option, you just have to get the shit done. There is a lot of like mental exhaustion that will come into that. And I do think that probably played a big part into it as well. And I don't think, like I said, we know what the symptoms are for physical exhaustion, but we don't often talk about the mental exhaustion as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, it wasn't like I was physically exhausted from the workout. Like, I shouldn't be completely tanked after a workout, right? I mean, you should feel actually great. You should have, your dopamine level should be high. You should have a high level of energy. Yeah, you might be.
And you're actually working out for a shorter amount of time.
I was working out for a much shorter amount of time, right? Going to 45 minutes to an hour of a workout. I did, chest and back on Monday, and let me tell you, it was like 45 minutes in and out, and it was amazing. Like, I'm really trying to hit, the 12 sets per muscle group is kind of a range, like 9 to 12 sets per muscle group per, depending on how I'm feeling. And so all I do is like my exercises now are a lot easier. I do like 4 sets of 3 different, exercises. So like, Friday, and I'll superset them too, especially if you're like chest and back. So, I started off with, lat pull downs, did 4 sets of those, but I supersetted those with incline chest press, right? I did a pec deck first, just to kind of get blood flowing to the chest. And then I did, incline chest press. And then I switched from there to low rows with my row machine. And then I supersetted those with a bench press on my other machine. And then I went to, single arm lat pull downs just to kind of burn everything out for 4 sets, and then supersetted those with pec decks, for 4 And I like literally 45 minutes. I was like, am I missing something? Like, I'm exhausted. This is great. It was only 45 minutes. That's all I really needed. But, and then after that, again, I should have high levels of energy, but again, I was tanking. So, something was off there. And I definitely think it was because I was, and it was, if you really think about it, it was noticeable of when it was happening, because I would just eat all this food and all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, I don't feel good. Like I feel tired. Right. And so it's happening during those periods of time. So it's just spacing things out, finding what food works for you, what food helps you with energy production, what food helps you, with everything else. And, I also think it was, I was wondering maybe it was lactose, other things. Doesn't appear to be that. But again, you kind of mix and match to kind of figure those things out.
Yeah, and to go back to the workout, it's funny how quickly you get used to things. Like obviously I go in and, those workout, it tells you how many exercises, and it's like, sometimes the leg day's 5 exercises and you're like, what the fuck? But it's like you do put the work in for across those 5 exercises. And then sometimes, like the pull-out workouts are like 7 exercises. I went in, it must have been on Tuesday this week, and it was like 11 exercises. I was like, what the what sort of madness is this? 11 exercises. But I did get a good workout in. But right to back to the food, and I think that this takes it right back to what we discussed last week. I think it was last week. In terms of being consistent with the foods that you eat. And I know that definitely, I know people are like, oh, I don't like eating the same foods every single day. If you eat the same foods every single day, for the most part, or the same food sources across the week, and then you feel like something's off, you can start to pinpoint what it is. And everything that you said there, like in terms of the amount of food you're eating, number one, what has happened is you've just worked out. So the strain and the stress on your body from that. Number two, if you just train chest and back, the majority of the blood that is in your body is in your chest and in your back and not in your digestive system. Number three, just overloading it with that amount of food and not having the availability of blood to actually do anything in your digestive system about it. It's just sitting in your stomach. So if you ever, and I know we have all been in this situation, like eating a massive meal and just felt exhausted. Like I imagine what Thanksgiving's like, or what it's like on Christmas Day when you just eat a huge meal and you just want to go for a nap. That's exactly what's happening. There's just too much food in your system to process it. And because you don't have the resources in terms of the blood in your system to actually process and digest it, that's why a shake for me, and then some sort of low fat cereal like Rice Krispies or Cocoa Pops or something like that's absolutely ideal, because there's not actually much like digestion goes into it. Like You're not going to sit down and go, I'm going to have a steak and 500 grams of potatoes post workout. Like I'm not in for that. Do you know what I mean? Like I eat steak a lot, but not post workout.
Well, it's funny because like Sam was talking about how he eats like 300 grams of carbs pre-workout and 300 grams of carbs post-workout. I'm like, bro, like I can't eat that much, man. Like there's no way.
But I think for me, it is. I don't want to put it down to an age thing, but it definitely has changed over time. Like I used to have a heavy. Obviously, oats pre-workout has always been my thing. I used to have it 45 minutes pre-workout, and I could do anywhere from 50 to 100 grams of oats with almond butter, with dark chocolate, with like berries and stuff like that. And then towards the end of whenever I worked in the gym, it started to get like I needed a little longer. So 45 minutes would cut it. I'd need to push it to an hour or 90 minutes before. And then obviously the amount then started playing a part into that. Like now if I had 100 grams of oats with blueberries and all the other bits and pieces, there's no way I'm training 45 minutes. Like I need about 2 hours to actually like process, digest it, and then I'm good to go in terms of the energy of that. So that's exactly what you said. Like you can do the same thing over and over and over again, but it will your body's needs and wants will change from the way you need to do things.
So it leads us into our actual discussion for today, which I think is an important one. And it's one that, I've preached a lot about, but as of late, I haven't been following through on. And it's not consistency. I think that's the easy part for me now, right? And I know that's not for everybody. Everybody hasn't developed the habits yet, but consistency has been a major issue. But complacency, I think, is where, I've started to struggle. And, when I first got into this with lifting, it was really exciting, brand new. I was learning things. But then you start to get a little complacent, like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm good here. I don't need to push myself that far. I don't need to push myself to new limits. And I noticed this at Orange Theory where, my running times were down, and I just, I assumed it was like, hey, a combination of winter and I'd put on some more weight for this surplus. And, it just wasn't as sharp cardiovascular wise and even lifting wise as I was, 6 months ago or a year ago. And what I've started to realize is that what motivates me is competitiveness with something, right?
I'm glad you have finally been able to admit that. I know for a long time that it wasn't okay for you to admit it, but I'm glad that you now have.
But it's got to be something, whether it's myself or somebody else or perceived somebody else. Michael Jordan used to talk about how he would go into the arena and he'd pick somebody on the team and he'd make himself think that person like called him a bitch. Like that, and so he'd be pissed at that person the entire game and would just absolutely dominate that person. Even that person said nothing of the sort and would never talk to Michael Jordan that way. But in his mind, that person called him a bitch, and so he was going to destroy that person in every way, shape, or form because that's the type of competitive spirit he had against himself, really. And it really is against himself to better himself, right? And, you look at these athletes and what they have to do. And I was just at a Cavs game with Aaron the other night, and it's incredible what they're able to do. I mean, these guys are every other night putting their body through the most extreme circumstances. They're top 1% from like a physical, amazement of human, greatness. And they put themselves through this because they have a lot of this competitiveness, with what they do of being the best. And, for me, I almost think that I have to continue to have that in order to drive myself to push forward. Otherwise, I'm just going to be going through the steps like I was for the past few months in Orange Theory. So like today is a good example. When I was on the tread, I was going all out, and my body's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you could just totally be at like a 7 or 8. I'm like, no, I'm going to be at a 12 and we're going to be dry heaving if I have to, if you want to bitch out, let's start dry heaving. Let's see what happens, And so I really started to spark that internal mentality again on what keeps me competitive with myself to improve myself to new heights. And I could have easily said, listen, I'm in my 40s. I can just chill, right? I can just, continue to do, a 7 or an 8 and get a nice sweat in and be good. But am I actually going to get better or am I going to stay the same? And I always, I've talked about this podcast. My biggest fear is going into the gym and a year later being exactly the same. And, if you don't push yourself through that complacency and you don't push yourself to hit a different level, then you're going to stay the same. You're not going to go above and beyond, right? Because you're not pushing your limits. Your body is designed to react to things that are challenging. And if you aren't challenging yourself, you aren't challenging your body's not going to change. So you have to be able to push yourself to these new heights to get the desired results that you want to, or else you're just going to be the same. Like the average.
Yeah, and I think, first of all, some people are okay with that. That's absolutely fine. Recognizing that is absolutely fine. Yeah. I think that the only guaranteed way to fail is to not try. So like that sort of comment of like, am I going to get better? Or, am I just going to stay the same from this point? It's like, if you make that decision at this point, then yes, those things will come true. But like, how to get yourself into that headspace to push whatever the thing is that you need to do to get yourself into that headspace, then that is what you have to do. And I see this, and I've spoken about this quite a bit recently in terms of like the entire journey. And I've had clients, at the point where they're maybe a year in and they've lost, loads of weight, they're consistent with their training, but they're not so attached to what their original goal was, or it's not as, I guess it's not as like urgent. So they start to like give themselves a little bit of leeway because they're not that attached to it. And it comes down to that complacency. It's like, I'm not in that same position that I was, a year ago or whatever it is. So I don't necessarily need to push myself. Like I could coast and be okay. And I think that, like I said, that's fine. Like you're still consistent, you still show up. But in my opinion, if you're going to do the thing, like if you're going to spend the time doing the thing, whether it's going to Orange Theory, going to the gym, manage your food, whatever, like why would you not want to do it to the best of your ability or full capacity?
Now, it's hard.
But yes, it is hard, and that is right. But that's okay. I think that the hard thing's important, and I'll take this right back to your absolute favorite conversation of all time. That's why I get in the fucking ice bath every morning. Like, I'm not the person to sit here and talk about the health benefits and all the other shit. The sole reason that I get into it every morning is because I don't want to. And I've noticed now in myself, anything else that I do not want to do, I don't give myself the option to do. I was like, well, I can do that stuff. I don't want to get in the fucking ice bath every morning and I don't want to. So like, even if I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, like, well, I'm just going to fucking do it anyway because I know I can do the things. So it's like that one thing that I do that I don't want to do gives me the confidence and the evidence in myself that I can do those things, that I can do hard things, that I can do things regardless of what my emotion is attached to them. Because I know, like, I have the experience, I have the evidence, I have backed myself on it.
Well, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's actually a part of your brain that grows larger when you do things you don't want to do.
Imagine how big that part of your brain would be if you got an ice bath.
I think it's actually been shown that cold plunges shrink that part of the brain. I'm just throwing it out there. Like, I think it's just the science behind it. So, you know, but there's a part of our brain that actually grows when we do challenging things. And the way Huberman explains it, it's actually like our purpose part of the brain. Like you can actually take purpose and put it into a part of the brain that we have. And it's been shown, like athletes, for example, have a very large part of this brain because they're always overcoming and challenging things that have been, previously things that they couldn't do before in the past. And what they've shown is that for this part of the brain, if you have a large part of this brain, you live longer, right? And so, your brain will fight you on new things. But when it comes to doing things that are challenging, when you're fighting through that challenge, it's only going to make you stronger, right? The Marines say pain is weakness leaving the body is a common term. Now, I would take that to an extreme. I would just work through a shoulder injury and be like, hey, it's just pain leaving the body. No, it was actually a shoulder injury.
Arm has literally fallen off. I'm like, no. It's just a weakness leaving the body. That's fine. Whatever. You don't get
it. But it holds true to the sense that, when you're trying to overcome something that is challenging in your life, your mind is going to be like, that's challenging. There's no way you're going to be able to do it, right? Whether it's business, whether it's overcoming a huge task or writing your own first exploit, your brain's going to be like, I don't know this. You're not smart enough for this. Just don't even bother because things are good right now. You don't need to change things, right?
I will tell you these are literally my thoughts at the minute. And I'm not going into the details because it will give away the thing. But like my life at the minute with everything that's going on, I'm like, I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing in any of it. Like with coaching, yes, but with the other stuff that we will reveal in the next couple of weeks, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I literally sat this morning writing the stuff that I sent you. I was like, I don't fucking know any of this stuff. And it's hard to not be distracted. It's like, well, I can just go and do this or I can just go and do that. But again, because I back myself and I know I can do it, I can just sit down and put the work in to actually get it done. Like I'm literally doing things that I've never done before. So I don't have the confidence in myself that I'm doing them to my best ability, but I know I can do them and get it done. And then we will iterate and go from there. And I think if I think right back to 7.5 years ago, whenever I first stepped foot in the gym floor, I don't have a fucking clue what I was doing then. I actually have some of the original programs that I used to send out and like sample meal plans that I sent out. And I look at them and I'm like, what the fuck? But I have learned over time. And it's like you said, it's like for the first time whenever you do it, your body's going to be like, what are you doing? It's the imposter syndrome. It's like, what are you doing? Because it's not comfortable with the unknown. It's like, why not just stay in this safe place and be okay where you're at right now? Like, why are you pushing? Why are you putting this in this danger zone?
Yeah, well, I actually just did a post today, a little sentimental. Just Aaron and I were in the car talking about looking at kind of our past 20 years that we've been together, right? And it's an incredible journey, and our marriage has never been stronger than it has been today, and it continues to grow and evolve and do everything else. And we're reflecting back at Aaron and I were dating for 24 days, and I deployed to war for a year, came back, and she moved to Hawaii. She literally uplifted her whole life to come live with me in Hawaii for a year. This stranger essentially for a year that she's talked to on the phone, but never had the other component to that. And so, you look back at that and you look at the different steps that you've taken in your life where you didn't know what you were doing, but you had confidence in yourself that you would eventually figure it out, right? No one is an expert at anything. In fact, no one's an expert at anything at all. Even if you look at like astrophysicists and quantum, theory folks, they're incredible at what they know. Are they experts? They know probably one trillionth of what needs to be known in that area of innovation. Yeah. And so are they truly experts? Maybe in comparison to other people, sure. But in the grand scheme of knowing everything, absolutely not. And so we have to look at that as we are human at the end of the day. And when we go into something new, there's fear, there's, denial, there's, doubt in your own self and in your own capabilities. And, we have to fight through those to eventually build a foundation of things that we can use to build off of. Right. And, what we're talking about here, yeah, we don't know a lot about this, but we know enough. We know it works, and we know that we can believe in ourselves, and that's all you really need. Right. And then from there, you figure the things out as you go along.
I was talking to Rob today, actually, the guy that owns the gym, and he knows a bit back and forth, and he was just asking me about it. I was like, to me, it's just stubbornness, and it's the willingness not to fucking give up is, I think, the thing that will carry you through. Because yes, you could just give up and then that's fine, and the failure aspect will come from that. But regardless of where I'm at now and whatever I'm doing, I know that I will be better every single time I go to do that thing. And then if I'm consistent with the things that I do, whether it's in the gym, coaching, education, whatever it is, building businesses, I know if I continue to do it, I will continue to get better.
That's the thing, right? You continue to get better with something that you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do it, what happens? You don't get better.
You don't get better.
Makes perfect sense, right? If you don't do something, why should you expect good results?
Mm-hmm.
If you do something, your results may not be as good as you expected, but as you start to do that over and over again, they get better and better and better. It's like talking to my kids. It's funny because I can see it in my kids too. Like my son first tried basketball. He's like, "Dad, I suck." I'm like, "Yeah, you suck."
Yes.
Because you just started playing. It's your first time touching a basketball. And, this is a great life lesson. I might have shared this before in the past, but, Gavin, I think it was either third or fourth grade. He tried out for the elementary school basketball team, and he didn't make it. And he was so depressed. He was so down. And I felt bad for him. I'm like, dude, buddy, you did great. Nice job giving it, as much effort as you could, because that's all you knew at the time. I'm like, but if you really want this, you're going to have to train, you're going to have to practice, you're going to have to do things that other kids aren't doing to make that team. And if you want to do that, I will provide you the tools necessary for you to do that, but you're going to have to put the work in. I can't do that for you. And he said, Dad, I want to do it. And we did it. We trained, we practiced, we, did a lot of things like, going to like private lessons and getting him, the knowledge of basketball. We watched games all the time, we went through stats, got his interest in just like a hobby, right? And next year when he tried out, he made the basketball team, right? And it's those types of life lessons that we have to look back in that we've learned. Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, man, I'm really struggling with a certain area, look back at your life on things that you've had success with and why were you successful in there? Was it by sheer coincidence? Was it by mistake? Or was it because you were interested in something enough to dedicate the time to actually go and want it, to get it, to go and do it, and then you have it, right?
Well, if you think about the first time that you sent me a video doing a deadlift, I mean, not awful, but not the best deadlift that I've ever seen.
Well, according to some of those people that have never lifted deadlifts before, my form's still bad. But
you should be like, you think this is bad? Where did you see this one from 3 years ago?
Yeah. Let me give you this one and compare it to this one. Let's see how I've improved over since then.
But like, if you like, we obviously we talk about putting the reps in, and putting the reps in terms of like literally putting the reps in with the gym, but also putting the reps in terms of like putting the time in, putting the hours in, putting the work in, the frustration, all the shit that comes along with whatever the thing is that you're trying to be successful in. Like over the past 3.5 years, how many reps, literal reps of deadlift do you think you have done? Like thousands and thousands and thousands. And that is how you've gotten better, because you've done the literal reps, like you've put it in. And I think that, again, I always take it back to why the gym is such a good metaphor for everything in life. It's like, if you put the reps in of, like, even this podcast, the first one we recorded was shit because of the sound. I didn't fucking know anything about recording a podcast. And we've done 131 episodes now, and the quality is definitely much better. We don't often know what we're talking about, but you don't even really know what time it happens every single week. But we're here and we do it every single week, and we put
I know what time it happens. I just can't plan my food. That's the only thing. So like, there's been multiple times where I've eaten on this podcast because I'm that hungry.
Yeah.
But I do got my energy drink here. So
but good. Even with that, like, a lesson for me within that is I always put myself in the category of, I don't like quote unquote public speaking or speaking in front of the camera, because I haven't done a lot of it. But I've spent 131 hours talking on camera to you. I've absolutely no issues doing it now. I was on I don't know if I told you this, but I was on somebody else's podcast last week. I'm also on somebody else's podcast.
Oh my God.
Tomorrow.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but but I felt fine. Like I felt absolutely confident going into it. So the podcast actually, and I've invited the guy Kieran on our podcast. He will be on the 10th of April. He runs a company called Total Mental Performance, where they basically work on the mental performance of coaches specifically. So he asked me on, and we just basically talked about what I did, and it was so interesting for me being the guest and like how the whole setup went. But I felt absolutely fine in coming and doing it, whereas a previous version of me probably would have been nervous, being like, well, I don't know how to like and talk on the internet. But like it was absolutely fine because I've spent 130 something hours doing it with you here. I'm on another podcast tomorrow. Shomik, one of my former clients, he runs a podcast for startup founders, and we're going to talk about health and fitness around that. So anyway, I back myself on it because I put the reps in, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I like how you relay this to the gym is such a perfect metaphor for life. When I was getting into cybersecurity, I was working for the military, working for the NSA and stuff like that, doing cyber warfare. And I remember being on IRC, and which is internet relay chat. It's like an older, still there by the way, but older form of like chat rooms and things like that. And a lot of hacker underground rooms were there, and it was some of the early days of what was called remote exploit, which eventually became offensive security. One of my mentors on the technical side, and someone that I cherish, our friendship with was Mutz, or Matty Arahoni, who started offensive security, Kali Linux, and all that other stuff, right? And I remember going in, and I see Mutz, releasing iWax and Wapix, which were two Linux distros for doing more wireless pen testing. At the same time, Auditor came out with Max Moser. As part of this group called Remote Exploit, and it was a group of young hackers trying to figure things out and just explore things. And obviously I was doing things very legally because I was in the legally because I was in the military.
Just to confirm, you were doing things legally by the law.
I was doing things by the law legally, very much so, to the T. But it was just a group of people, and we were cool with everybody. People that maybe kind of trounce in the law a little bit or not. And it was just an early days where you don't want to mess with that today, but very early, different time.
Especially like at that time, like brand new to everybody. Like it was not, hadn't necessarily been a thing before.
Yeah. And I was looking at all these folks in awe thinking, man, these guys are just geniuses. There's no way I can ever be like them. I can never be as good as them. Right. But that was okay with me. I was like, but I'm going to try. I'm just going to try to see what I can do and put my brain through the ringer and see how good I am. Right. And I remember talking to Mutz, and I'm like, hey man, what would you recommend I do from like just starting off in my career? He's like, first of all, pick up a programming language. I prefer Python. He's like, I'm like, oh, okay. So I went heads deep into Python, and, eventually released, one of my first tools called Fast Track, which, gave me a landing spot at DEF CON, which was like my first foray into like major speaking in front of thousands of people. And then I got to ShmooCon. Then my career started taking off, but I was obsessed with learning, right? And learning from others. So, like people around me were really smart, learning from them. What were they doing? How was I doing things? How could I learn that? I remember spending, like a week in my basement when I think Egypt, James Lee released an experimental article on getting around data execution prevention. And I didn't understand it. And I just sat down in a debugger, using WinDebug in Windows for a week, reverse engineering, everything to figure out what was going on to get around, data execution prevention at that time. And I wrote my very first exploit, that I think was one of the first exploits to get around DEP, after that FRAC article was released. And, it was like those types of things where I was able to push myself. But believe me, as I'm going through it, I'm like, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't figure this out.
I have no idea what's going on here. I have literally no idea what's going on.
Yeah, but I kept building a foundation off of knowledge, and that stacks up, right? So I don't know here right now. I don't know the very top, but I know down here. So what are the steps that I need to do to get to this point to understand right here? And it's through those painful learnings. And I think it's something that we really, aren't teaching kids nowadays. And that's why I really, offensive security gets some flack for what they call their try harder mentality. And this all spawned out of Remote Exploit, by the way. So we'd have people that wouldn't read forums or wouldn't look at, previously released articles and be like, hey, how do I get packet injection working in promiscuous mode on, on WAPix. And we're like, literally there's 70 forums that you can Google right now that tell you exactly how to do it. So the response would be try harder, go and learn on your own, right? Before you come to people and use their time. And that kind of gives you the hacker mentality that you kind of needed at that time, which was, listen, you're going to run into situations where there is no documentation, where it hasn't been done before, where you're going to have to figure out something new. And you're going to have to push your brain to the limits to get around a protection mechanism or a new EDR or a new endpoint protection product to figure out those specific exposures to get access to those systems. And if you're always just spoon-fed the answer, are you really going to be able to do that? Are you going to be successful in what you're doing and being the best you possibly can be? The answer is no. So it comes down to you doing the work, you understanding the work, and you not being spoon-fed something and given something where you don't have to put the work in. And, that's really where I think, I learned a lot from the Marine Corps, because when I got into the Marine Corps, I was overweight, I was unhealthy, I was non-athletic. And, I literally, I had to go to PCP, which is called the Physical Conditioning Platoon, but it was nicknamed Pork Chop Platoon. So I had to go there for an extra 3 months just to lose the weight to be able to pass the IST, or the initial strength test, to even go to boot camp. And then but I learned then that I could do it if I did the work. And it wasn't about genetics or I'm just, a big bone dude. It was, hey, I've abused my body already, even at an early age. I'm already overweight. I'm already, I haven't put the time in to be athletic. I haven't put the time in to be in shape. I eat like crap. So I'm probably not going to be able to pass the, one of the most physically demanding, branches of government to get into, right? I'm going to have to work up to that.
What an extreme. Like, think about where you were. You're like, I know what I'm going to do. I know.
Yeah.
Literally
like, hey,
the most difficult physical challenge I could actually do. Perfect. Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to the Marines. Like, it's funny because like, that's the mentality I had. Like, I remember I was going into the Army recruiting station and I was thinking about signing up for the Army, and the Army guys were like, yeah, I hate my job. I hate this. I'm like, I don't want to fucking join this. Like, why would I want to join this? I hate all the time.
Worst sales pitch ever.
Yeah. I walk out and I see these like 3 buff ass Marines and like their Charlies walking out, like jacked as hell. I'm like, man, I'm going to be an effing Marine. I'm going to do it. I'm like, all right. I walked in the Marine recruiting station. Didn't even tell my parents. I had to sign the dotted line. And like a month later, I was shipped off to the military, and that's when I was like, oh, I fucked up. But when you get up that bus and you get down to those yellow footprints, you're like, all right, shit's real now. And I'm like, literally, like, I'm like, what did I do? Like, here's Dave, computer guy in the basement, programming video games, to now I'm, going to go fight some wars. What would I do? But you look back at those times of distinctive moments where you told yourself you could be more than what you are today. You could be more than who you are today, as long as you put the work in. And the gym, your business, your family. Like, if you don't put any time in your family, are you really going to have a great family? If you don't put time into a marriage and you're just distant, you don't talk to each other, you're not spending time with one another, you're not giving compliments, you're not working out with somebody, or you're not spending time, with your family, is your family really going to be great? And in everything in life requires time. And if you ignore everything, then you're not going to have anything. And so it's really just about putting the hard work in to get things accomplished. And our bodies respond to that, regardless if it's physical or mental. Our bodies respond to hard things mentally because it's obviously important if we're focusing on it, but yet it's going to fight us saying you don't really need to focus on this because things are good right now anyway. But if you overcome that, now you have a foundation of something that you overcame and learned that you can build upon, right? And you look at my businesses, that I've been able to build, first of all, I would never been able to do it without my better half, Aaron, us together, being joint on it. But, when I was at Diebold, I was one of the youngest VPs in Diebold history. Everything was going for me. Everything was great. Had a great team, had buy-off in the board. I reported directly to our board. I was debriefing the board at 26 years old, and they were laughing, having a good time, I have some great stories from there, right? It was a great time. And I come home one day, I'm like, I need to start my own business. I want to do this. We had 6 months of rent, mortgage payments in the bank for our house. And, Erin had just had twins, and she's like, let's do it. You're only gonna be able to try this once. And right now, I guess is the time we're going to do it. And, we never would have thought we would have, we're between the two companies, over 400 employees, worldwide. Would never have thought, I think when we talked, it was like, hey, we'd be cool if we got like 20 or 30 employees. That'd be amazing.
Which is
I have
cool.
400
Like
employees.
even to think
Yeah.
about that, like I'm managing that amount of people, and now to where you're at now.
But it didn't come by not taking the risk. It didn't come by not putting the work in. I mean, it was a effing grind.
But
to
even
get to
that,
this
like
point.
at that point, we've talked about this before. Like you didn't have a fucking clue what to do whenever you started. Like how to Google how to start a business. Like there's no you just have to fuck around and find out, work it out as you go along. And I think if I take it right back, like one of the phrases that I used to use myself a lot, but I used to use it whenever I coached on the gym floor, was do more and be better. And there's no like, for me, the only expectation is there for you to put the work in and try and be better than yesterday. It's not like you need to be at this level. It's just you need to look at where you're at now, do a little bit more and be better. And I think that comes back to everything that we do, whether it's this, the podcast, whether it's business, whether it's family life, whatever it is. And if you can do more and be better and live by that, I think it will carry you well.
Yeah, it's when you look at some of the key things in life that have been catalysts, I think it's really been where I become obsessed and focused on something to be able to accomplish it, right? And you don't let go of that. Like my business, security, I still keep my pulse on everything. I'm still on engagements, doing security assessments, even though I don't have to. I still love what I do, and framing your mind into something that you love to do, like lifting weights. I love to lift weights, right? I love going down to the gym and doing something for myself, my own time with some music. I'm in my own head. I'm doing my own thing. It's like my relaxation and meditation time. So finding the things that you love to do and making them your hobby, or even if it's not something that you like to do now, framing your brain to make it your hobby into what you like to do is a very different story. If every day you go down to the gym, like, I fucking hate this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I always go somewhere else. Your mentality going to the gym every day is going to be, well, I fucking hate this. If you go down to the gym and say, holy shit, I did some awesome PRs. I'm competitive with myself. I'm not as complacent as I used to be here, and I'm focusing here now. I'm getting better here. I'm recovering from an injury, and I was able to hit a PR. Whatever those are, you're making it a game for yourself, or making it fun for yourself, which allows you to change your mind into what you're doing to be better at what you're doing. And it's those types of differences that make a big difference. And I'll equate a lot of what I have today on the success to having a positive view on things and surrounding myself with positive people that uplift and support me. And I don't think people recognize how bad people are around them when it comes to bad karma or just bad attitude or just always negative or always shitting on other people. Like I don't talk to those people. Like I cut them out of my life because I don't need their negativity. And they may be going through something. That's a different story. If somebody's going through something, you want to be there as a friend for them, right? But if their whole outlook on life is negative, do you really want to be with that person and have them drag you down every single day? Because then you're going to be negative. So, surrounding myself with good people that care for my own interests, for my own well-being, as well as me equivocally caring for their best interests, their success, and for them to be successful, that's just a recipe for success in itself, right? And they will uplift you past the heights that you even thought you could. And that's why, Aaron's such a great example, and Ben, you're such a great example. My friends, that I've had through life, and they continue to have through life, are great examples. They make me a better person because they uplift me past the things where I thought, I wouldn't be able to do it. A great example, a guy named Scott White, who works at Trusted Sec. I've worked with Scott since my early days of when I worked for a small consulting company out of Ohio called Secure State. And, I left Secure State. I went over to Diebold. He followed me over. We were great friends. He built the application security team over at Diebold. And when I was starting off with Trusted Sec, it was a lot to manage. Aaron was running the finances, the accounts receivable and payable, billable things, setting up proposals, those types of things. And I was handling, going out and getting the work and doing the work and writing the reports and going out and speaking in engagements and always traveling. And, Scott, when I was struggling because there's just a lot to handle, Scott in his own personal time with I didn't have money. So, it's like I couldn't pay him. Scott would just, because he's a good person, would help me work on engagements, as a subcontractor per se, without any payment. to help me build my business. And, obviously since then, I've paid him back tenfold and continue to, because he deserves everything that he got. And he helped me be successful in the times that I needed, because he was a good friend during that period of time and continues to be a good friend. And so it's like those types of things around you that are just equally as important for complacency, but also equally as important for bettering yourself, are the people around you, right? Never lose focus of the people around you that are the most important thing to essentially to life.
It's funny because one of the first times, I can't remember how it came about. One of the first times Matt asked me on to one of the optimized coach calls, he had put in the chat about, he put in chat any question, if anybody had any questions for me. And one of them was a question of, the quote of like, you're the product of the 5 people that you spend your most time communicating with, talking with, around, whatever. And he laughed and I laughed because I knew what the answer was going to be. And it essentially was because I didn't have 5 people. It was like the quality of the people that I have, I don't actually need the 5 people. And you were on the list, he was on the list, and Ali was on the list. Maybe there were only 3 people and nailed it. But it's the quality of those people. I don't need a lot of people because the quality of those people is so good. And actually, it was funny with yesterday. Went to lunch with Ali yesterday, and he works in Belfast City Centre. I try and meet him for lunch every so often. Sometimes we just laugh about the situation being through. Like I remember whenever he first started his first business, again, didn't have a fucking clue what he was doing. I didn't I had one skill, and it was making coffee. I was very good at making coffee, so I came and just made coffee for him. Worked ridiculous amount of hours with him, just like helped him build that business, then went on to my own thing. But even now, he's very much like he knows everything that's going on, he sees everything that's going on. Number one, he's a good, like, he always reminds me, he's like, remember this and how far you've come, remember this, how far you've come. He actually sent me a message earlier on today. He was like, you've been in a funny mood recently, but remember that uncertainty is the place that you grow. Like, I remember whenever you told me you were going to leave Slims and you absolutely smashed it because you wanted to be a PT. I remember whenever you told me that you were going to move fully online and you've absolutely smashed it. So back yourself once again. So he's a good reminder in that. But he's like, is there anything you need me to do? Like, he's not there because he wants like a financial reward from it. He just backs me and knows that if he can help in any way, that he will back my success longer term. So having the quality of people like that around you longer term is definitely important for sure.
Yeah, and those people, could expect the same if they're going through a challenging time or needed help or need me to drop whatever I'm doing to come over, right? They would, or I would, right, and vice versa. There's many times where I've used my friend card, and my buddy Dave DeSimon has come over and helped me move a bunch of my gym equipment, right?
I can imagine I would be that person if we lived in the same country.
You would definitely be that person. I've been spreading that joy throughout several friends now. I've expanded my caliber here of people that I use for that. But it's the type of friendship and people that you have around you that make you a stronger person mentally and everything else that goes along with that, right? And family is a big piece of that. And you mentioned having a small group of friends. I have a very, very small group of close friends. Friends that I can be myself with, friends I can joke around with, friends that I can share things that I'm going through, right? You have this persona of Dave online, and that's pretty accurate to who I am. Like, me really well. It's pretty much exactly online who I am in person. But obviously, there are times where I go through struggles, whether it's business or family or things like that, where I'm not going to post my troubles online. I don't need some emotional support from a bunch of random folks online, right? But I will confide in my friends and be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. I just need to talk to you. And that's, having a support system of positivity that gets you going through things. I've had friends that have gone through some very challenging times in life, and I've been there every day checking up on them. How are you doing? Let's talk. What's going on? What can I do to help? Let's come over this weekend, or I'll come over to your house. Let's do something. Those are the things that help you break those cycles of getting in your own head. And you can do the same thing literally for anything in life, whether it's the gym, your fitness, your mental health. It's just framing things in a different way. I intentionally don't watch the news. Now, some people might say, well, why wouldn't you not want to know what's going on? I'm like, well, I focus on the things that I can control, right? I focus on the things that I can do in my local communities, that I can focus on helping people that are in need. I'm not going to be able to fix global politics. Like, that's not my role, in this. And, people can be as outraged. I'm not saying that they're wrong for being that, but if you're sitting there through the lens of social media and news all the time, your view of the world is going to be extremely negative. And believe me, it can be extremely negative, and it is extremely negative in many cases. There's horrible things going on all over the world at all times. But if you put yourself through that every single day, well, your view of everything else in life, the things that are good, are going to be negative. And it's those types of framings that we have to be really careful about in ourselves and start to change ourselves in a way. And there's a book that somebody shared with me at the last Vistas meeting I was at, which is a group of us that get together and chat. I think it was called the negative fast. And it was about doing a fast of negativity in your life, cutting out things that are negative in your life for a certain period of time and seeing how that has an impact in your body. It's a great book. The Negativity Fast is what it's called. The Negativity Fast. Great book. Very easy read. It's a quick read. I don't read books very often, and I read it, like within like less than a day. And, when you look at the Negativity Fast, some of the key components there is that, you don't even know that you're being bombarded by this because that's your normal life. But when you can take a step and recognize the negativity around you and you can surround yourself in a different way, your outlook and view on everything changes. And it's those types of things, whether it's the gym, whether it's, being complacent. It's funny because like at Orange Theory, guess what happened today when I wasn't complacent and I had a different view on things that I wanted to be competitive.
You won the imaginary competition.
I won the imaginary competition. And by the way, that was a very positive thing. I felt great today. I felt great. Today was one of the best workouts I've had in probably 3 months, right? And, it's those types of differences, just doing a little quick mind shift check, that just resonates so much further, with you and can propel you to whole different levels that you ever thought was possible.
I think my point on the not watching the news, like it comes back to the things you can control. The things that you can control specifically are how good your companies are at protecting other companies, and that will make an impact on the world. My job is I can make sure that all you guys that are protecting all these companies are better at your job also. And that's one thing that the guy Kieran said in the podcast last week. He says, these guys are basically making sure that the world stays together and like all the companies don't get hacked. And I was like, yeah. And you're in charge of it? I was like, yeah. And he goes, no pressure. So like for me, it's like, I can control that. I can't control, like you said, global politics and everything else. So I just focus on the things that I can control and I'll do better at that. And then that will be my impact and the ripple effect on the things that we can do. I don't want to say I don't give a shit about the news, but I just don't see any value in me watching it or listening to it.
I did see a clip recently. I think it was, I don't know these late night host names. I think it was like Jon Stewart or something like that. But, when you get into politics, like everybody's going to say, well, if this person gets elected, it's the end of the world. If this person gets elected, it's the end of the world. The truth of the matter is if one person gets elected, there's going to be good things that they do and there's going to be bad things they do. And guess what? The next person that comes in is going to fix the bad things that person did and put new good things in, and they're going to do bad things, right? It's a self-correcting system, and every person that we have in is the end of the world, but yet we still continue to focus and move forward and progress and hopefully make things better. And obviously the world is such a crazy place, a lot of unknowns and uncertainties. The best we can do is try to help other people, live happy lives and to help other people that are in need. And that to me is what I can impact, right?
Leave the world in a better place than you find it.
Leave the world in a better place than you find it, right? And, I'm not going to be able to, for one, I would never run for president. One, I'm never get elected. But two, I don't want that job. Like, that's not me.
Not a job.
Right? I don't want to deal with
that. Not a job that I would want either. Fuck
no, I'm not interested in any way, shape, or form in that whatsoever. And I can be like, listen, hey, everybody, we're going to figure out how to give, healthcare to everybody. It'd be like, you're the devil. I'm like, well, I'm just trying to help people. Like, what's going on? Anyways.
You're always going to, this is across the board. Like, that is obviously on the extreme levels, but no matter what you do, or who you are, or how good a person you are, or the difference you're trying to make, you're always going to piss somebody off. And that's okay. Like, being okay with that.
It's interesting. I'm blocked by a few folks on social media, and you know what? More power to them. If I've upset them in some way, they're not taking any brain space in my mind. And obviously I said something or did something that offended them in some way, and be happy to have it, over beer and chat through it. But at the same time, we're not a good fit, right? Cool. Like, but I'm not going to, change who I am as a person and curtail for somebody else. I'm going to go and help as many people as I can and do better. And, again, going back to what we discussed and kind of wrapping things up here for the pod, you can be better than you are today. And it's all about overcoming what your self-doubts are in your mind and also finding something that interests you, that spurs you to get to that point. And I think, for me, it's the competitiveness, right? It's the competitiveness myself. It's competitiveness, the fake competitiveness with others, that helps drive it. But, at the end of the day, we should definitely be trying to make ourselves better in every way that we possibly can.
Agree. And I'll leave you with do more and be better.
Do more and be better. I will impact the things that I can and help as many people as I can, and be a good father and husband. Be a good family member, be a good friend. Help people in need. That's where my fun comes from, and that's where I enjoy it, right? And that's hopefully what we all can do someday.
Agree. Well, that's us.
Thanks everybody
for another episode.
That was a quick hour, man. I feel like we got deep in that, and hopefully everybody enjoyed some discussions, some life lessons, some journeys that we've had. But appreciate everybody tuning in for this week's podcast. We'll catch you again next week.
See you next week.